not a day goes by that there's not an article about HPAI. They're pushing very hard for vaccinations for humans and for poultry, pushing very hard for culling, pushing very hard on the, oh my gosh, it's infecting cattle, it's affecting pigs. Oh yeah, the pig that was found eating a dead duck. Gee, I wonder where the pig got it. I don't know. This is scaremongering at best. I don't think they should get away with it. It is totally against the rules of testing. They are violating the laws that are set forth on how the testing is done. And by the way, howdy everyone, I'm Dr. Judy Morgan of Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets. For those of you who don't know me, I'm kind of outspoken about how we treat our animals, about the horrible pet food that is made and promoted, the drugs that harm our animals, and the influence of big pharma and big pet food on the veterinary community. One of the things that we've all been hearing so much about is highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI. Every single day I get a newsletter in my inbox from the American Veterinary Medical Association. Not a day goes by that there's not an article about HPAI. They're pushing very hard for vaccinations for humans and for poultry, pushing very hard for culling, pushing very hard on the, oh my gosh, it's infecting cattle, it's affecting pigs. Oh yeah, the pig that was found eating a dead duck. Gee, I wonder where the pig got it. I don't know. We don't have human-to-human transmission at this point. It's not an epidemic, but they certainly are making it sound like it is either coming or it's already here, although I don't see the proof of that. I just read today that in the past 2 years, we've had 140 million poultry culled, not that died of avian influenza, but were culled because a bird tested positive or there was an exposure. That's a lot of chickens. And we wonder why there are egg shortages and chicken shortages and prices are getting higher. It's because we've culled 140 million chickens. You know, it takes some time to hatch more and get them to laying status. So it's a huge problem. And so I want to read something that was put out by Susan Thixton of truthaboutpetfood.com. She published this on January 27th, but in case you didn't see it or you don't subscribe to her newsletter, which I'd highly recommend. Public record proves Department of Agriculture's deception to the risk of raw pet food and avian flu. So we talked about this in my first avian flu video, where there was a recall in Oregon for Northwest Naturals turkey cat food because a cat died and it tested positive for avian influenza. Then they tested a bag of food and found the same strain of avian influenza in the food. But as Susan's letter will show, there's a few problems with this particular case. On December 26, 2024, the Oregon Department of Agriculture issued a press release that put a world of pet owners in panic. Oregon Department of Agriculture told the public they were confident raw pet food was the cause of a cat's avian flu diagnosis. Confident. We are confident that this cat contracted H5N1 by eating the Northwest Naturals raw and frozen pet food. This cat was strictly an indoor cat. It was not exposed to the virus in its environment. That's the quote from the Oregon Department of Agriculture. But, as it turns out, the Oregon Department of Agriculture and Dr. Scholes was recklessly misleading the public. Friend Dr. Lori Koger filed a public records request, a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request, with the Oregon Department of Agriculture. One of the documents provided evidences Oregon's confident statement was a little more than regulatory marketing meant to direct public fear towards a pet food, a raw pet food. We've got the document. It says under initial report 12/11/24, the veterinarian talked to the people involved. It says, we'll send full records. Owner stated that she takes the cat on leash walks, not a strictly indoor cat, and feeds a raw diet. Big red arrow. Then this public health official makes notes. Always under supervision on leash. Saved the raw diet. Northwest Naturals turkey. Is on grass outdoors with possible exposure to waterfowl. Big red arrow. Do you know who carries avian influenza? Ducks. Ducks are waterfowl. Exposure. This document clearly states the cat was not strictly an indoor cat, as Oregon stated in their press release. They put it in their press release, but in their own records, they know that this was a cat that went outside and was exposed to waterfowl. In fact, this document confirms Dr. Scholes of Oregon Department of Agriculture knew the pet owner takes the cat on leash walks, knew the cat was exposed to grass outdoors, and knew the pet had a possible exposure to waterfowl. Oregon intentionally used misleading language, at best. Oregon told the public the pet was strictly an indoor cat. Oregon chose the word strictly when they were well aware the cat was not strictly an indoor pet. Oregon chose the words this pet was not exposed to the virus in its environment when they knew the pet had an outdoor exposure. Their own records stated possible exposure to waterfowl. This document proves Oregon Department of Agriculture could not have been confident that the pet food was the cause. The document proves there was a risk of exposure from the environment. Documents provided also evidence multiple samples of Northwest Naturals pet food and treats were tested, but only the open product, here's a picture, open bag, tested positive. All of the closed bags tested just fine. But this open bag, which by the way is almost gone, there's not even any food above the little window here, so this cat had eaten this whole bag of food. Pictures provided appear to show the product opened and was almost empty. Oregon Department of Agriculture's reckless choice of words resulted in thousands of veterinarian and media websites unknowingly sharing shocking misinformation. Just a few examples. Posted on the AVMA website, the American Veterinary Medical Association. Quote, we are confident that this cat contracted H5N1 by eating the Northwest Naturals raw and frozen pet food. NBC News, quote, the Oregon report represents the first documented case of an indoor cat. Excuse me? Indoor? People.com, quote, a house cat in Oregon died. House cat? AP News, quote, the death of an Oregon house cat, and a pet food recall are raising questions. Yeah, my only question is why did they recall? The facts are Oregon Department of Agriculture gave false information in a press release that had devastating, long-reaching results. Oregon Department of Agriculture must correct their error in an equally public manner. Pet owners cannot remain silent when a regulatory authority intentionally alters the facts of an investigation. Pet owners are urged to call or email the governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek, and or contact the director of Oregon Department of Agriculture, Lisa Sharpillos Hansen. If you're interested in doing that, there's an example email. You can go to truthaboutpetfood.com and look up the article that is titled Public Record Proves Department of Ag's Deception to Risk of Raw Pet Food and Avian Flu. So I'm so thankful to Susan for bringing this to light, to Dr. Koger for doing the FOIA request. This is deception. This is deception at a high level. It has scared many pet owners who have been feeding really high quality raw food to their pets for many years. I've been a raw feeder for over 25 years. I have never had an issue. My cats and my dogs are still fed a combination of raw and gently cooked foods. I am not concerned. I have good sourcing. If you are getting USDA human grade poultry products and feeding them to your pets, you're not going to have a problem. That has been tested. That came from a clean flock. This is scaremongering at best. I don't think they should get away with it. It is totally against the rules of testing to test an open package. That is just not how it's allowed to be done. So they are violating the laws that are set forth on how the testing is done. And by the way, That package was dated something like May of 2023. That lot of food, a lot of it went out, and a lot of animals ate it. Oh, and by the way, nobody got sick. Isn't that amazing? Do your research, follow up. If you've been feeding raw, you're feeding a high quality food, you feel comfortable with it, stick with it. If you're nervous, do gently cooked, but stick with human grade, high quality foods for your animals. Cats are more susceptible to avian influenza than dogs. So for the dog raw feeders, really not worried. For the cats, I have cats that are outside. They're exposed to birds. They're exposed to poultry. It's just how they live their life. Take care out there. It's a funny world.